So Sarah, we are talking about creationism versus evolution,
Okay.
and we kind of want to first just get your opinions, which side you see yourself being more supportive for, and you can have a mix. It's okay.
Okay, yeah, I definitely think I'm a mix because I follow like what the biblical version says, but I'm not sure how I stand on like the exact 6-day creation and like how long those days are. So we were talking about this in another class yesterday, but like Adam was told to name all of the animals, and he had to name all of them that have ever existed. And that if you calculate like one animal per second, that would take like over like 100 years or something, like a huge number. So that couldn't be spanned in one day. So I think I'm probably in the middle. Like I see both sides, but I think I'm probably right in the middle actually.
So, in general, do you think you have a more figurative or literal interpretation of the Bible?
Like in general?
So, with that story included.
In the Old Testament especially, like would you believe that there really was a Garden of Eden and that Noah really built an ark?
Yes.
Or do you kind of believe that it's the message that's important, not the actual event?
I think for the New Testament, I definitely think is more literal with the whole resurrection and all the Jesus stuff. But I do think that there was a Garden of Eden and the man started with Adam and Eve. But I think that from some of the stories, they might have been like passed down from tradition maybe and changed a bit, but the meaning has stayed the same. And that's the original meaning that God intended for people today and 100 years from now to get.
So you think we can trust oral tradition? That's a good way to look back on facts.
It's difficult to trust oral tradition just because people are automatically going to change the story just based on what they remember or use different words so that it changes. But I think in most stories you can generally say that the meaning will stay the same, just some aspects of it will be changed.
Okay. Do you have any other questions for Sarah?
I guess, how do you feel about fossils, and do you think people evolved from monkeys or from amoebas, or just started out in their final form?
I don't think people did, I guess, but I do think that a bunch of other life has evolved. Like I don't necessarily know if some of the animals today existed back then, because we hear all these stories about like, oh, scientists just found this new form of life, this new plant, or something like that. So I don't know if we can necessarily say that nothing has evolved.
So maybe is it that it's evolved through climate and adaptation more than evolution?
I can agree with that, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for interviewing with us.
All right, so Adam, today we are kind of discussing evolution versus creationism, that whole debate. So where would you say that you stand?
I'd say I lean more towards evolution.
And how do you kind of explain that, or what makes you think?
I agree with all sorts of like the fossil evidence.
That's the easiest one
dating of the Earth.
Is it better to be a
We
man
can
or a
tell through different scientific methods how old the Earth is. And so there's different biological processes that seem to make sense for that as well. So evolution seems to make more sense to me.
And with the Bible, especially the Old Testament, would you say that you have a more figurative view or a more literal view? So would you believe that kind of the Garden of Eden and Noah's Ark actually happened, or do you think it's more about the general message?
I think it's more figurative than anything. Like a literal interpretation of the Bible, I think you kind of miss some of the meaning that's behind it if you're focused on what the text is actually saying. The whole 7-day creation story seems to me more like it's like 7 metaphorical days, probably not like 24-hour days. And then as far as the ark and everything, I think it's just stories that you're supposed to take meaning from.
And would you say that science and faith are mutually exclusive, or would you say that they go together in some way?
They definitely go together in some way. It all depends on your interpretation of science and the Bible. So there's definitely a way to combine the two.
Talking about creationism versus evolution and where you stand, how do you determine that? So what side do you find yourself more siding with?
evolution.
And why is that? Is there some background or?
Just because of all the scientific data that backs that information.
So you would say that you have a more literal interpretation of the Bible or more figurative?
Definitely more figurative.
In the New Testament,